Hi, I'm Rex, and this is my review of King Kong vs. Godzilla. This is the American version. I thought that I had the Japanese version, but I wasn't able to obtain it for this review. I only had access to the American cut. I am trying to review every Godzilla film on this channel, so Godzilla Raids Again and the original Godzilla film and the American cut of that film are already uploaded on this channel, so subscribe if you'd like to hear me yap about all the Godzilla movies, because that's pretty much what I'm doing here. So anyway, I wanted to be very upfront. I thought that I could watch the Japanese cut of this film, but I was not able to obtain it. I was only able to look at the American version of this film, and apparently the American version of this film is drastically altered from the original Japanese version, more so maybe than Godzilla 1985, more so maybe than Godzilla King of the Monsters. There's no way for me to know. Like with the original film, I watched both versions. With Godzilla 1985 or Return of Godzilla 84, I've watched both versions. I can see where the changes are. I don't have that ability here, but from what I understand and from what I've looked up online, and you know how, hopefully the information that I find online is accurate. I don't know. But apparently this one is way different, and it's undergone a lot of changes. I don't have a list with me, but I've seen a list of apparently there's 104 different changes, 104 different cuts or places where there's a variation between this film and the Japanese film. Don't quote me on that. That's just some information I found online about this. Anyway, I want to talk about this film, and I kind of want to talk about, oh God, I have so much to say about this movie. I think the first thing I want to say is that if you're a fan of King Kong versus Godzilla, I really don't want to upset you if you like this movie. This was a clusterfuck. The pacing, the tone, the writing, the translation has to be garbage. It has to be. I just do not believe this translation is accurate at all. So the Japanese version, I'm just going to refrain from really saying anything about the Japanese version of this film, because this was so bad. This American cut was so bad. I just don't know how much it butchered the original. It's hard for me to imagine that the original was that much better. But I don't know. I don't feel like it would be fair for me to judge the original. So I'm just not going to. I can only work with what I've seen. And there's so many inconsistencies in the translation. There's so many scenes that are rearranged in this film that are obviously rearranged. There's just so many nonsensical moments, and the American scenes that are inserted into this film are done so poorly, compared to Raymond Burr's performance in Godzilla King of the Monsters, where they had him very cleverly inserted into the film and almost kind of narrating, but it's done in a way where he's narrating the film, but they've done a really good job of using smoke and mirrors to insert him into the film, so he feels like he's a part of the movie. This is not even close. This is so bad. They do this thing where the American scenes are newsroom scenes. They cut away from the movie to newsrooms and characters that you only see for brief moments, who kind of they're watching the movie with you on TV, and then it cuts to them in a newsroom and they turn to you with some really cliche well, Godzilla has appeared, and it seems like things are changing here in Japan. And it's just bad. It's just bad, and it breaks tone, it breaks immersion. I really didn't like the way that it was handled. I'm trying to not be super negative, but it's kind of comically bad. I do think this movie was very funny, and I think that some of it was intentional, and I think that most of it probably wasn't. I can't tell, obviously. I don't know how funny this film was supposed to be in the Japanese version, but I'm just gonna start from the beginning. I took notes during this film. I want to show you. I did this for Godzilla Raids again. I did this for Godzilla Raids again, and I did it for this. These are my notes, and I just want you to see kind of like how like many notes I took. It probably took me 2.5 hours to watch this film. And as you can see at the end, there's like a little 5 out of 10. That's how I was feeling when it was over. I think what saved it is that I think the monster fight at the end was pretty good. So I have a lot of notes. I'm going to go over kind of the American cut. The notes that I took were like so bad because I was having such a hard time keeping track of the story and the characters because they cut so many times. You know, I couldn't remember characters' names. I couldn't remember who was who. I actually had to feed my notes, everything I just scrolled to you, I had to feed it into AI, into Grok here. And then like have it like correct and like spit it back out to me in like bullet points that are a little easier to read, because it was just so hard for me to keep track. Like there's points in my notes where I'm like, I think this is the brother trying to save his sister, but it might be the boyfriend trying to save his girlfriend, and I think they got separated at a train, but I'm not sure. And so I had to have AI like tell me like what's actually happening here and clean it up for me. So anyway, I know that my, talking about a clusterfuck, I think my intro is one, but I just want you to know, like, I tried my best to keep up with what was happening, but there's so many cuts in so little time, and there's so many characters that are, introduced to you, or that you spend such a brief period of time with before you cut away from them, that it's really hard to, get to know them. And then the translation and the narrative is nonsense at times, and it's hard to understand character motivations and things like that. So I really struggled with this film, and so I apologize for that. I'm going to do my best to kind of sum it up for you, the best that I can do. Okay, so the film opens up with, one of the American inserted scenes in the newsroom where they're talking about there's been these earthquakes in Chile and the United Nations is trying to assist. And then they cut away to like this United Nations satellite in orbit, which is like an in-orbit newsroom. It looks just like a UFO, though. It doesn't look like what I would imagine a satellite looking like at all. I mean, it just looks like a UFO. I thought that was funny. They talk about, everything that's going on. Let me see. They begin discussing a breakthrough in chemotherapy. This doctor has discovered these red berries that are growing on an island. This is the island where Kong is at. And these natives do not want to give up these red berries, but these red berries have like a narcotic effect. And so they think that they could be used in modern medicine. But the natives use these red berries as like an offering to their god on the island, which is Kong. And so that's like a current medical breakthrough that's going on. Let's see. Then what do we have next? They theorized that the reason why Kong might be so big is because of the berries, by the way, in this film. Just a little bit of lore there. I wrote here at this point, we're very early into this is the opening scenes. I wrote, translation feels off, nonsensical, or lacking context. Then we cut to this company. So it's called Pacific Pharmaceuticals, apparently, and it's led by a ratings-obsessed character named Mr. Taco. He's like in charge of Pacific Pharmaceuticals or Tokyo Television. They're partners. These two companies, the pharmaceutical company and Tokyo Television, are partners. And the boss is Taco, Mr. Taco, and he's obsessed with ratings. And they send two guys, which is Osamu Sakurai, I think. If any of the names are wrong or anything like that, I apologize. I really did my best. He's apparently a TV cameraman, and they send Kensaburo, who's like a comic relief character, I think, to the island. This dude wants to capture King Kong for TV ratings. There's no setup to this at all. They are mid conversation talking about, oh, there seems to be like maybe there's this, monster on this island. I don't believe in monsters. And then another guy's like, well, I think that maybe there is a monster on the island. And then they cut to Taco and he flips a coin and goes, well, it says heads. We're going to go get the monster. Out of nowhere, there wasn't like a setup for him flipping the coin. There wasn't any setup for any of this. He just randomly says, we need to get our ratings up. We're going to go get this monster. And that's it. And so he sends two of his guys and a translator to the island to find the god monster of the island and somehow bring him home. Okay, so we cut from that. Let's see. We cut to one of the scenes that I remember from my childhood. Now, this is something I should have said way earlier. I'm sorry. It's like I'm doing a tribute to these American cuts because I'm doing my own review out of order. But I want you to know that I haven't seen this movie in decades. I remember seeing this movie when I was a little kid. I only remember a few scenes of this film. And I know people always say, did you see the American version or the Japanese version? I'm pretty sure, I saw it on American TV, so I saw the American cut. I only remember a few scenes. This is one of them. This is where we see our human subplot. So we see Sakurai is having dinner with his sister Fumiko and her boyfriend Kazuo Fujita. And Kazuo is showing off some wire. So he has made this wire that he decides to show off at dinner that's basically indestructible. And there's this kind of iconic scene. I say iconic. It's not. It's just a scene that for whatever reason stuck with me since I was a little kid. This guy jumps onto the balcony outside of their home and he has the wire behind him and he just starts like laying back like this, playing with his own life like he's gonna die. Boys will be boys, right? And anyway, the wire holds him, and so they introduce this like indestructible wire that he's made very casually. They're having a dinner, and let's see, one of them, I think it is the brother, right? Sakurai, the brother. This is where he talks about how he's going to Hokkaido. So Hokkaido is where he's going, but I don't remember. I think this is like one of the islands near Hokkaido is where Kong might be. You know what? I don't even know. He mentioned going to Hokkaido. That's it. That's all that I know. Anyway, moving on from that. Let's see. We do a lot of jumping around, and then we cut to a submarine. And there is a submarine out. I don't know if this is the Arctic or what, but there's a bunch of icebergs, and there's a submarine, and they're researching, right? And they find this iceberg that's really weird. It's glowing with all these different colors, like a nuclear factory or like a nuclear bomb or like a nuclear power source or something. So obviously, this is where we're going to enter Godzilla, right? Well, I mean, that's kind of appropriate. Actually, I was going to say pause, but this is kind of appropriate. This is so crazy. They see the strange light in the iceberg. The iceberg is far away. They look through like a periscope or whatever. They see the iceberg. It's far away. They're discussing like the lights on it and how it looks like nuclear and blah, blah, blah. And they start picking up radiation from it. And they're like, well, let's go check it out. It cuts immediately to them running like head first directly into the iceberg. I don't know why. I don't know. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, they just run directly into the, like, it's just so, like, there's no in between. There's no in between. It's like they're 200 yards away and they're like, let's check it out. Immediate cut. They are buried into, they're crashing into it. They're buried in the iceberg. They're freaking out like, oh, how'd that happen? And, so they start sending out like a signal in the water, this like green liquid in the water to signal Mayday to like call for help or whatever. At that point, the submarine starts flooding. The captain of the submarine calls for everyone to abandon ship. is that a thing? Like deep under an iceberg in the Arctic, like or whatever, like crashing into an iceberg out in the Arctic, like that far down, abandoned ship. That really stuck out to me. I was like, I really don't think they could, like, I don't think you can get out of this ship right now, bro. Anyway, I don't know why, but that really stood out to me. You hear Godzilla's roar, and then you see fire on the submarine, and Godzilla emerges from the iceberg. Okay, so that's our first scene with Godzilla waking up. Let's see. We cut back to the news narrator. The vibe is super weird. They talk about Godzilla heading possibly to Japan, possibly to the Hokkaido region. Will Godzilla head to Japan? They theorize that Godzilla will head to Japan, and they bring on this doctor, but that's in a little while, who seems to know everything about Godzilla or knows a lot about Godzilla, says that Godzilla's going to go to Japan. We're introduced to, I believe, the defense minister here. Hold on one second. Let me find it here. Okay, so Akihiko, I'm sorry if I said his name wrong. Akihiko Hirata plays Dr. Shigezawa, which is he's a scientist advisor or something like that. I had wrote that I thought he was a defense minister. I could be wrong. But he's introduced, and I immediately like the name. I was like, Shigezawa, and then he looks like Dr. Serizawa. It turns out it's the same actor. It's the same actor. It's the same dude that played Dr. Serizawa is back for this film. So I thought that was fucking awesome. I was really hyped to see him again. I thought it was awesome that he came back for this film. I noticed some other Godzilla actors that I'm pretty sure I've seen in other Godzilla that become like recurring in Godzilla films. I noticed a couple of other actors in this film that I think I see again as well. So we see him again, and there's like this recurring conversation with him and reporters. They're talking about, are we going to use the atomic bomb against Godzilla? So they're discussing it, it's on the table. We'll see what happens, and they do this whole will they, won't they thing with the atomic bomb. Then they cut to Godzilla's first attack. So Godzilla arrives in Japan. The first thing I noticed was his suit. This is a chonky boy. This is a chonky Zilla. He is so thick, bro. I want to tell you that one thing I remember from my childhood is, even when I saw this movie as a kid, I never really liked the Godzilla suit or the Kong suit in this film. I still don't think they're great, but, watching this film, being a little bit older, looking back and knowing the technology they had to work with and stuff, I didn't mind it that much as an adult. But I remember when I was a kid, I really didn't like these suits that much. So I'll talk a little bit about both the suits right now. Godzilla is so thick in this one. He is a thick, short arms, thick as fuck, like chunky boy. I don't know why. It's kind of cute. It's not really that bad. I didn't dislike his suit as much as I thought I was going to dislike it. I'm wondering in my head if I was confusing this suit with another one that's used in another film. I want to say one with Mothra maybe, but I'm not sure. But I really thought that I would dislike his suit more, but it's really good. I think the only thing that was weird about it was his face. He has a really thick body, thick legs, thick arms, thick everything. And he has like a really kind of narrow face. His facial features, like his eyes and the kind of ridges, the small plate ridges here, they're all kind of like condensed on his head, which is makes him look a little goofy in the face. But I mean, it wasn't as bad as Godzilla Raids Again. So I'll take it, Kong, this, I'm gonna be honest with you, Kong, I don't really watch Kong movies. Like, I don't remember watching the original King Kong movie or really any other King Kong movies that may have existed around this time. I don't know. I love kaiju films, but I never really watched King Kong like that. Maybe I will one day. But I didn't think this suit was that great for Kong. It was kind of goofy looking. The arms are really long. It looks like the hands never move, so you got this thing going on where at least Godzilla has fingers. And it looks like the guy in the suit, like the arms are longer than his, so maybe he's grabbing some kind of handle and moving, like, I'd say like from here up on the arm, on Kong's arm, is just a stiff block, basically. There's not a lot of hair on the suit, but there's some. When he's really wet, it kind of looks like he's just an actor in a plastic monkey suit. It's not great. The face is a little goofy. I thought the eyes were pretty cool, though. I thought like the way he looked around with his eyes, I thought that was actually pretty good, pretty decent. Yeah, just not the worst in the series, not the best. They're okay. I actually was somewhat fine with the Godzilla suit. I feel like it's like a very mid suit, but it's decent. It's fine. It's better than I remembered. It's funny seeing chonky Godzilla, and then with King Kong, I didn't like his suit that much, but I'm not that familiar with that monster, and I haven't seen like what other Kong movies were around like the early 60s or whatever, so or late 50s, so I don't I don't really want to shit on something that doesn't deserve to be shit on, so it's whatever. Anyway, sorry, that was a very long aside. Where were we? Let's see. Godzilla's breath. He uses his breath during this first attack out in the ocean, coming onto land. I think he comes onto land briefly. This is the first time I think we see the blue. So he has a blue mist. It's still like a heat breath. It does cause some explosions here and set things on fire. It's blue. He also has the plates kind of glowing blue. I think that's the first time that happens when he fires his breath. His plates may have lit up in the first two films when he fired his breath. They may have flashed white a little bit, because I think both of those were black and white. I think this is the first color Godzilla film, or maybe the first completely color Godzilla film. Was Godzilla Raids Again in black? I've got to ask. I have to look. I can't remember if Godzilla Raids Again. I feel like Godzilla. It was black and white. Okay. It was black and white. Apparently, I had to look it up. I'm sorry. You would think I would remember it since I just did a review recently, but man, it's goldfish memory. It's like once I'm done with one project, my brain just kind of lets go of information for the next project. So I'm sorry. So we see his breath is blue. He has the blue plates. He attacks. The army ends up retreating. Godzilla starts attacking Japan. Let's see. This is where the pharmaceutical company boss gets furious seeing on the news. They cut away. The pharmaceutical boss is seeing Godzilla rampaging, and he's like, I really want King Kong. I need my own monster. So then we cut to the island. The pharmaceutical guys that are being sent there by Tokyo TV and whatnot, they're arriving at the island. The natives see them coming from a mile away. It's literally just two guys working for the company and a translator. They're immediately confronted when they land on the beach and kidnapped and brought into the village. Let's see. Okay, this scene right here is fucking crazy. When they're kidnapped by the islanders, they're brought onto the island and they're confronted by the chief. And, the chief tells them to get off the island. They need to leave, right? And they're trying to basically convince the chief to let them stay. They end up bribing the chief with a radio. They're like, look, it's magic. It's magic. You can have our magic. You'll be the best chief of all the tribes. Which, by the way, I think on this small island, there's just one tribe. But anyway, they show him like a radio, and then they start giving him cigarettes. And they start passing out, and they bribe them with cigarettes, and they start handing out cigarettes to everyone. And then there's a scene where there's like a little kid. He looks like he's 12 years old, and he's like pulling on their, their shirt, and they look over, and the kid's like, I want one. And they're like, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, they're not going to give this fucking kid a cigarette. I mean, it's the 60s. I get it. But like, surely they're not, because in all these, like in a lot of these Godzilla films so far, and in a lot of the films that I've seen so far, in like the late 50s, early 60s, whatever, they're chain smoking, dude. Like every scene, someone's lighting. It's like tobacco companies owned all the movie studios. Like they're chain smoking in every scene. But I'm like, they're not going to give a fucking kid cigarettes, right? They do. They give him two, actually. They give him two cigarettes, and then his mom is standing right there, and his mom snatches one, and she's like, one for me, and lights that shit up. And I'm just like, yo. And then they give a pack of cigarettes to the chief, and they've bought their way onto the island. I'm going to be honest with you. The whole thing was hilarious. It was also like super cringy because like the comedy is cringe. Like the comedy that it seems like they're trying to do in this scene is extremely cringe. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the comedy they're attempting is cringe, but the scene itself is still hilarious, but it's unintentionally hilarious, I think. Either way, I thought it was funny. Moving on. They immediately cut from this bribing scene to a prayer ceremony, where like the natives are doing like this prayer ceremony. You hear Kong roar in the distance, and there's a lightning storm, and all this other stuff is going on. Let's see what happens next. Hold on, I'm trying to piece it all together. I'm sorry. We find out that I think the translation is wrong, but they say that the boyfriend's plane crashed. The boyfriend or the brother, whichever one, that was going to Hokkaido. I think it was the boyfriend. They say that his plane might have crashed or whatever. The girlfriend finds out. She doesn't seem that upset about it. Like another girl who I don't know who she is hands her a paper, and they're like, look, and she reads it out loud like, oh, the plane crashed, 118 dead, 27 survivors, huh? And then her friend's like, maybe he's one of the survivors, you need to go to Hokkaido. And she's like, okay, and that's it. So she's going to Hokkaido. And then you find out that also Godzilla is heading to Hokkaido as well. So you kind of see this setup. The boyfriend was on his way to Hokkaido. His plane crashed. You end up finding out that that's not what happened. He's alive. He actually missed the plane, which I think is a translation error, and it was actually a boat that got destroyed. But I'm not sure. That's what I understand from like looking with AI and checking online and stuff. So I think there's a translation error there, but the boyfriend ends up not going to Hokkaido. The girlfriend thinks that he did go and was possibly involved in an accident, so now she's on her way to Hokkaido, and Godzilla's on his way to Hokkaido. So you see the setup here with the girlfriend and Godzilla meeting in Hokkaido. The boyfriend finds out he's going to go chase her, try to save her. She's on a train on her way to Hokkaido. Let's see. Then we cut back to one of the American scenes where they're talking with this doctor that I mentioned earlier that seems to know about Godzilla and Kong, apparently. He starts talking about Godzilla history. He claims that Godzilla might be a cross between a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus, who's been frozen in an iceberg. And he says that Godzilla considers Japan his home, that is likely like what his home was, his homeland in the prehistoric days or whatever. And so he's confident that Godzilla is going to be in Japan, go to Japan, that's his home, that's where he'll go. Even though I think at this time they don't know where Godzilla is, okay? So now we cut back to the island, and it's like the next day or something. And let's see. Okay, so our guys working for the pharmaceutical company are there, and they're going to try to like make contact with Kong or something. So they're like traveling around the island. One of them gets attacked by like a lizard, like literally like a Komodo dragon or something. It's obviously a toy. They're like walking on a cliffside. This guy starts screaming. They turn around, the camera cuts, and this guy's like basically swinging a lizard by its tail, saying, "Oh, it's attacking me," but he's like just shaking it and stuff. And they're like, "Well, throw it down, throw it down." So he throws the lizard. Like I said, it's like a Komodo dragon type thing or something. He throws it into the bushes, and then for no reason, like my dude just shoots it with a gun, like like like. Like it's clearly just a toy, but it was just kind of hilarious and unnecessary because, like, you know, he throws it out onto the cliffside on the bush, and then my dude like just aims with a rifle and just blasts its brains out. I don't know why, but that just made me laugh. It just seems so unnecessary to do that. Let's see. Then they cut to suddenly there's a storm. It's at night. They're making a lot of jokes. This guy that got attacked by the lizard is laying in bed, and they're like, we need to get him some medicine. The kid that they gave cigarettes to is there, so they tell him, hey, go get some of that red berry juice. Why? Nobody fucking knows. You wanna know why things happen in this movie? Fuck you, that's why. So they send this kid out into the night to go run and find some of this red juice that's gonna help or something. The kid runs to this hut in the middle of nowhere, and you know, the door's like blocked off, so he crawls in. Here comes his mother, like, who's randomly panicking and searching for him. Why? I don't know, but she's randomly freaking out looking for him. She runs to the hut, and then there's a giant octopus bigger than the hut that crawls into the scene. The woman somehow does not see the octopus, runs up to the hut, runs inside, confronts her son. Then the octopus attacks the hut, apparently because it wants the red berry juice itself, and that's why it's so big. Destroys the hut. I honestly thought they were dead. I was like, wow, they just literally killed that mom and her kid. Like, okay. You know, because most of this movie is just like goofy and cringe and nonsensical and not serious. And I'm just like, damn, that's kind of like, wow, I'm surprised they killed him. But even though he crushes the house and everything, they get away. The natives somehow all realize at the same time as the two company guys and the translator. Everybody realizes what's happening at the same time, even though they're not there and they're not seeing it. So I don't know how that works. They all run up and they all start fighting the octopus. Then Kong shows up, attacks the octopus. He starts throwing rocks at the octopus and drives the octopus away. Then afterwards, Kong sees there's these big jugs of like this red berry juice, and Kong starts drinking it. Now remember, they said it's a narcotic, right? So Kong starts drinking it, and then all of a sudden he's like fucking drunk, and he's like, holy shit, I'm fucked up. And for some reason, like, the natives just like break out instruments, and all the girls start like shaking their titties and dancing and beating on drums, and they just start singing and dancing as Kong just passes the fuck out. I mean, honestly, it's hilarious, but again, it's just like you're watching it and you just feel like, man, I felt like I was missing so much context to so much of this film. But, you know, it was entertaining, I will say that. So Godzilla passes out. One thing that I thought was funny is after Godzilla passes out, one of the like pharmaceutical guys says, all right, well, you know, he's passed out. He's ours now. Let's just take him home. And sure enough, they cut away from that to the news. And the news, you know, the American news like scene that they've inserted informs you that, yeah, they took Kong. And then they cut back and they're on a giant boat and they're dragging a raft behind them. And on the raft is Kong passed out. So how many cigarettes do you think they gave the natives to steal their god? Because it was 3 of them. It was 1 translator and 2 employees and like 300 natives that worship Kong as a god. And how the fuck did you get Kong on that raft? Bro, it's just, I I'm not convinced because like there's so many flaws in all of this that I'm just not convinced that the Japanese film, there's no way it's like a fucking masterpiece or anything, right? But surely in the Japanese film they had some extra context to these scenes, or they explained how they got Kong off that island. If you've seen the original version and if you've seen the Japanese cut, please leave comments for me. I will read all of them. But yeah, so they just immediately say, yeah, Kong's asleep. He's ours now. Let's take him. Yeah, sounds good, buddy. Let's get him on out of here. And then they just cut, and now Kong's on a raft, passed out, surrounded by explosives, and they're just taking him on home. And then the boss of Tokyo TV, the pharmaceutical company, the guy Mr. Taco, he gets flown out to the boat to see his prize. He gets lowered down into the boat, which is kind of a hilarious scene because he's literally just like hanging, like suspended in the air, like it just drops down onto the boat. And he's all excited about Kong. He sees that they've got like the dynamite around Kong, and I guess that's to destroy Kong if he starts to wake up or something. So they have like some comical scenes of like him accidentally, like he's gonna press the button to blow up Kong, and they play around with that a little bit. And then the government arrives, a government like military ship arrives, and they basically tell the guy like, hey buddy, Japan is like, we're so done with monsters, so Kong is banned. So King Kong has done nothing wrong, and he has earned a lifetime ban from Japan. The government says you cannot bring him home. And of course the guy that's obsessed with TV ratings is like destroyed by this. Then we cut to, this is when we cut to finding out the boyfriend was actually alive. He's at home. He ended up missing that plane or possible boat. Meanwhile, girlfriend is on the train heading to Hokkaido. Godzilla's heading to Hokkaido. And the military is making plans to deal with Godzilla. Again, the atom bomb is brought up, but they're not going to use that. They're making other plans for a way to trap Godzilla. Let me see where we're at. Let's see. So at this point, Godzilla sees the train that's carrying the girlfriend that's heading for Hokkaido. The train stops and evacuates. So I thought we were going to get another one of those Godzilla iconic like train moments. So far there's been one in like every film. But they don't. They stop the train. They start evacuating. The girlfriend is unable to evacuate completely. She's able to get off the train, but there's like a couple of trucks that for some reason are just waiting there to pick people up. There's a bunch of trucks. People jump in the back of them and escape. She doesn't make it on one of the trucks, so she takes off on barefoot. For some reason, it looks like Godzilla's chasing her. Like Godzilla has just noticed this one girl that's running and screaming, and Godzilla's like, I'm gonna fucking catch this bitch. So he starts like chasing her, I guess. I don't know. He's moving towards her. She's running away. She randomly runs into a river as she's trying to run away from Godzilla, starts crossing the river, and she's just flailing around like a fish in the river. And it's so funny, dude. I just don't know why. Like, it's the water's only like maybe knee or waist high, but she just starts, it's so over dramatic, the acting. And then she like falls onto a rock and like starts to pass out. The boyfriend finds her somehow. He arrives and gets her and tries to get her out of there. They escape. Then we cut back to the ship, and Kong is waking up. So Kong is waking up, and they decide, we've got to destroy Kong. We've got to set off that dynamite because Kong is waking up. The boss says, no, please don't do it. They do this goofy wrestling scene where like they're fighting. One guy is trying to press the button or the handle down, they do this thing to set off the dynamite, and the boss is like fighting him to keep him from doing it. And then of course the boss ends up being the one that falls, and sets off the bomb. The bomb goes off, and it's like, oh shit, I think we killed Kong. You didn't. So by the way, the dynamite didn't go off or whatever. Like the bombs didn't go off, so he ended up shooting them with guns. They go off. Kong survives. So they cut to the news. Back to the news. Cut away from the action again. These cuts are fucking brutal. And the news is like, Kong's on his way to Japan. He's sensed Godzilla, and they're gonna fight. So they do end up meeting, and in their first meeting, when they see each other, Godzilla's kind of up on a hillside, and Kong is like down, just standing on like a beach side or something like that. Kong picks up rocks like he did with the octopus and starts throwing rocks at Godzilla. Godzilla uses his breath. He starts shooting his breath down in front of Kong, and basically pushes Kong back with his breath. He starts using his breath, shooting in front of Kong to create distance. Kong starts backing off. He gets burned a little bit from the breath, and Kong's like, I don't like this shit. So this is another like strange scene. Because Kong, who, you would expect to be a lot more aggressive, he sees this, and he just kind of, he's just like, oh, he's like confused by Godzilla's breath attacks, and he just kind of scratches his head like this. And then he just walks off. He just leaves. And Godzilla's like, yeah, bitch, get out of here. So that's the end of that scene. It was just strange. It felt incomplete. You cut to the military prepping for Godzilla. They have a plan, which they enact, and the plan is they're going to, as Godzilla's walking through this like mountainside area, they set fires along a path to basically keep Godzilla maneuvered and guiding him towards a trap. And they've basically dug a big hole or blown out a hole. They've covered it up, and they're waiting for Godzilla to fall in the hole. It actually works. The trap works. Godzilla ends up falling inside of the hole. They set off all these explosions and bombs inside of the like crater that Godzilla falls into. They think for a second like it worked. Of course that shit didn't work. So Godzilla's fine. He survives. Then we cut back to the news again. Like you know Godzilla's about to be pissed off, bro. You just tried to kill him. He just fell into this hole. You set off all these bombs. They think Godzilla's dead. Godzilla emerges from the hole. He's mad as hell. Cut back to the news. Back to another American news segment that's inserted into the film. Fucking why? Like, I can't tell you how many. Like, I think that hurt the movie so much, these cuts, because it feels like every time things get going, they have to fucking cut back to the news that's basically just narrating the movie, and every time it kills any momentum that's happening. It kills any momentum. So, I mean, obviously this isn't in the Japanese cut. I hope one day I get to see the Japanese cut. But holy shit. It was really, really brutal. I even wrote down in my notes that these cuts are fucking brutal. Anyway, we have the doctor again talking on the news, and he talks about how it seems that Godzilla avoids electricity. Godzilla seems to not like electricity and seems to avoid it. Meanwhile, Kong only gets stronger from electricity. Electricity like supercharges Kong and makes him stronger and more powerful. And this is based on, I don't fucking know. Nobody fucking knows. They just say things and you just believe it or don't. So, it's like they're coming up with lore off the top of their head. So that's what they say. Godzilla doesn't like electricity. Electricity makes Kong stronger. Fine. It's just really weird in the previous movies when they had up these electric power line like blockades set up. Godzilla just walked through that shit like fuck you. But now apparently but I guess this is a different Godzilla. I don't know. But this one, the first two were fine with it. This one doesn't like electricity. Cool. Okay, whatever. So they set up the electrical blockade. Godzilla touches it, and then he freaks out. He doesn't like it. And he's just like, I don't want to walk through this. Like, all of a sudden, this one is so sensitive to this. He touches it one time. He's like, what the fuck? And so he just kind of like walks around. He's like, I'm not going to mess with the electrical barricade. So that's they said it, they did it. Then they cut to Kong, who it's the most hilarious scene. He's just running wildly through, I think, Tokyo, and he's just like running wildly with his hands up in the air doing the monkey thing. And he's just walking and running through buildings. It's funny. Let's see. Kong comes up on that electric blockade, and when he gets to it, he touches it, no problem, which this feels so opposite. I just want to say it feels really opposite that the monkey is fine with the electricity and seems to get powered up from it, but the radiated like hydrogen bomb dinosaur doesn't like electricity, makes him feel icky. Like, I just thought that was so weird. But Kong, this is another big scene for me. I remember Kong starts biting the wires of the power lines, and it's just like charging him up, and like the electricity's like flowing through his face. It's kind of a cool scene for what it is. So he's obviously not bothered by it. He's getting charged up. You know, he's going Super Saiyan or whatever. They cut to evacuations. We've got the brother, the sister, the boyfriend. Then it looks like, let me double check this real quick. Hold on. I'm sorry. I want to double check something. Okay, so Fumiko, the sister, gets separated. I think she got separated from her boyfriend at a train station. So they're trying to evacuate. Her and her boyfriend are trying to get on the train. She makes it on the train. He doesn't make it on the train. Crazy, by the way. Train takes off. They gave Kong the iconic train moment. I thought this was actually brilliant, and I thought this was really, really cool because, you know, even though this is King Kong versus Godzilla, I think of it as a Godzilla movie. I don't think of it as a King Kong movie. And, you know, Godzilla always gets that moment with a train. It's just like from the first movie, and it's been a big throwback. I think it was even in Godzilla -1. Can't wait to get to that one. But they give the scene to Kong. Kong stops the train and picks the train up. I just thought that was really cool, and it kind of subverted my expectations. Kong ends up getting, like, the girlfriend is, like, hanging out of the train, and Kong sees her, and he grabs her. And so then he starts walking around with the girl in his hand, which, you know, kind of plays into King Kong. I thought that was really cool. Let's see. Kong starts carrying her around. The military is prepared to shoot Kong, but they stops. And then randomly, like, as they're about to like start shooting Kong and they stop, the pharmaceutical boss, Mr. Taco, is there with his employees. And they're saying you can't shoot him because he's holding the girl. The military's like, okay, we won't shoot him. We'll let, you know, thousands more people die because we don't want anything to happen to that girl that he's holding. But we can't do this for long. And they don't say that, but that's how I felt watching it. And so the Mr. Taco and, you know, the girl's brother and maybe the camera guy, I'm not really sure. Anyway, they come up with this plan on the fly that is so crazy. He says, why don't we use the soma juice? The soma juice is the red berry juice. Why don't we knock him out with the juice again? Guys, hear me out. It's so simple. We'll just load up some missile heads with all the berry juice, which I just have a ton at my office. And we apparently already have the missile heads completely ready to use, like right now. Why don't we just load up these missiles and fire these missile heads at Kong and explode them over Kong and rain down the red juice on Kong, and he'll breathe it in, or, you know, whatever, and he'll pass out, and he'll go to sleep, and we won't have to shoot him, and we'll save the girl. And I really felt like I was about to have a brain aneurysm at this point, because I'm like, what? Huh? Like, what? And you just got all this red juice at your... But... And then within 2 seconds, they just cut to them loading up the rockets. And this is another thing that I thought was so fucking funny. The boyfriend is like, oh, but what about her? I think her name was Fumiko. I'm sorry. What about Fumiko? Like, what if she gets hurt? What Kong passes out? Like, he could still drop her. And Mr. Taco just goes, don't worry. It's going to work out fine. And okay, that's it. That's it. He says everything's going to work out. Don't you worry about it. And everybody's like, you're right. So anyway, they do that. They do that immediately. It works perfectly. Kong passes out, lowers his hand softly to the street, opens his hand. They get the girl out. Cool. Let's see. I also just want to throw in, they didn't just have the soma berries and the rocket heads that were already filled with the juice, and like they didn't just have that like immediately ready to go. When they did that and Kong started like breathing in the berry juice or whatever, or I guess he was breathing it in. I mean, I don't think he swallowed enough for, I don't know. They start blaring over the radio. They somehow also have a recording of the natives like chanting and dancing from the earlier scene. And also the guy, I think the boyfriend or the brother, whichever one it is, I think it's her brother that's the cameraman. I don't care. He tells his friend, like, hey, bring my drums. And they bring out some drums and they start playing the drums. Where do they get this? How do you have this shit? Like, they just, fuck. In order to enjoy the movie, you know how some people say, like, for some movies you just need to turn your brain off, buddy. You need to give yourself a full like frontal lobotomy to enjoy this, because if you think about any of that shit for even like, my eyes twitching, bro. If you think about it for even a second, you start to just like go down a rabbit hole of just nonsensical narrative writing that it just doesn't make any sense at all. But I want to say that it is kind of fun. On the positive side, it does. I will not forget this movie because this is so ridiculous. That it does almost do that full circle thing that some movies do, where a movie is so bad it becomes good. I really think it kind of is doing that for me, where it's just like, man, like it's so bad, but like fucking it's kind of, you have to watch it out of like a morbid curiosity or something. Anyway, it works. Kong is passed out. The girl's reunited with her boyfriend. The army says that Godzilla's at Mount Fuji. They decide they're not going to use the atomic bomb. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to make Kong and Godzilla fight each other. So it kind of made me think of that "let them fight" scene, from the American films, which I can't wait to review those. Anyway, so they bring up that wire that Fujita, the boyfriend, they bring up his wire again, and they're like, we could use your wire to carry Kong to Mount Fuji, and then we'll drop Kong off at Mount Fuji where Godzilla is, and they'll fight each other, and hopefully they'll just kill each other. We won't have to use the military anymore. Which, now that I think about it, I'm like, Kong is so heavy, and this wire is like, it's indestructible and extremely thin. Like, wouldn't it just rip him apart? If you picked him up with all that wire and you started flying him to Mount Fuji. But they decide that is exactly what they're going to do. It does not rip Kong apart. However, I've got to show you this picture that I took during the scene. It's so hilarious. This is them. I want you to look at this. I took this picture. This is them taking Kong to Mount Fuji. Look at my dude's leg. Look at my dude's leg. Look at that. That's them. Like, I took a picture that's even closer. Look at this. Look at this. If you don't laugh at this, like, how do you not? I laughed so fucking hard at this picture, bro. Look at his leg. Look at that shit. So Anyway, I thought that was hilarious. Then anyway, what happens next? So they take Kong to Mount Fuji, and the rest of this is where I said show the picture. This is where they drop Kong, and the rest of this is literally me doing my own play-by-play of the final fight between Godzilla and Kong to the end of the movie. And with your permission, I'm now going to just read you my play-by-play because I think it might be funny. I'm going to read you my play-by-play of the final confrontation between Godzilla and Kong and the ending of the movie. And I apologize ahead of time because I was literally just doing voice to text. There may be mistakes in here, but I'm going to read it to you as I said it as I was watching, so you can kind of get my real-time, play calling, commentary, whatever, and then I'll talk about the scene. So they drop Kong on the mountain to fight Godzilla. They don't drop King Kong on Godzilla's head, which is what I thought they were going to do. Instead, they drop him on his ass, which I'm sure ruptured at least 3 discs. Then Kong starts sliding down the mountain, surely with a broken back. He slides into Godzilla, and then they tumble down the mountain. It's not doing much for the giant scary monster fight. It's very goofy. So yeah, I thought that this was extremely goofy. It was funny. And it was fun to watch, but it's like you're about to watch these two titans have their final battle, and it starts off with them just tumbling, like goofily, if that's a word, tumbling down the mountainside, just falling on their ass, both of them. It's just kind of, I just don't feel like, I would not have wanted to start this final fight kind of laughing at both of them, but I do. Kong ends up hiding from Godzilla. Godzilla doesn't see Kong. Godzilla walks past Kong. He's hiding behind a rock. Kong grabs Godzilla's tail. Godzilla throws Kong off. Kong grabs his tail again while Godzilla's trying to run away for some reason. Godzilla's holding on to the side of a mountain while Kong is pulling his tail. Godzilla shoves Kong off. Kong throws a rock at Godzilla, smashes him in the face with the rock. He throws a second rock. Oh shit, Godzilla just used his tail to hit it back at King Kong. Kong throws a third rock and then hits Godzilla in the back of the head because he tried to run away again. Godzilla starts using his breath again, does not hit Kong, or if he does, he only like earlier, shoots it at his feet, explosions, maybe hits him a little bit in the chest area. Kong charges Godzilla. They start wrestling. Godzilla ends up shoving Kong off, hits him with the breath. Kong charges Godzilla and ends up spearing him like fucking Bill Goldberg in WCW, like back in 1998. Kong just charged him in straight like Roman Reigns spears the dude. They fall down. They're rolling around along the mountain, rolling around on the ground. Kong is literally at this point getting some ground and pound. So he's punching Godzilla in the face. They separate. Kong gets up first. Godzilla has trouble getting up for some reason. All of a sudden now Godzilla doesn't know how to stand up. So Kong starts throwing rocks at Godzilla and dancing. What the fuck? Kong just starts rolling. So Kong is like throwing rocks at Godzilla and dancing and like just celebrating because Godzilla can't even get up. And then, for no fucking reason at all, when Godzilla stands up, Kong does a front rolling flip, almost like he's trying to do like one of those rolling kicks. I can't remember what they're called, but he does like one of these like rolling forward kicks like Low Ki used to do. If you ever watched him in Ring of Honor, it's like a capo kick. Is that what they call it? I don't remember, but he does that. Ends up rolling forward like he's throwing a kick, but he doesn't. He just keeps rolling forward and smashes his face into a boulder on the side of the mountain and knocks himself out for no reason. Like nothing made him do this. He just jumps, rolls forward, smashes his face onto the mountain. He wasn't doing an attack. I don't know what the fuck was going on. I don't know if the American cut something out here, but he just decided to knock himself out. So he gives himself the first of what's about to be 5 concussions in a row, by the way. So, yeah, what the fuck? Kong just starts rolling forward, rolls headfirst in the mountainside, gives himself a fucking concussion, knocks himself out for no reason. Godzilla wins somehow because Kong is an idiot. Godzilla's laughing at Kong and then starts trying to wake him up by smacking rocks into him. So Godzilla starts throwing rocks at Kong now and hitting rocks onto Kong with his tail. And, like, he's not trying to kill Kong. It's like he's trying to wake him up because he wants to keep fighting. But Kong's like, ugh. Knocked the fuck out, concussed. I think Godzilla wants to keep fighting him, but Kong is knocked out like a dumbass. Godzilla starts burying him under the rocks like a cat because instead of using his hands or his like tail, Godzilla starts like doing that thing that cats do in their litter box and like burying Kong that way. Let's see. Then he starts beating Kong with his tail. Let's see, hold on. Okay, hold on. So he starts hitting Kong with his tail. Kong wakes up, charges Godzilla. Godzilla headbutts him away. Godzilla does his front kick. So I think it's Godzilla versus Hedorah is the one where Godzilla, you know the Godzilla drop kick. Everybody knows this, right? Where Godzilla kind of like gets up on his tail and does that front kick. In that movie, he does like a really long run and then just starts sliding. It's so funny. It's like, I think that scene is like the Titus laughing scene in Final Fantasy X. If you've ever played Final Fantasy X or Titus, however you say it, I don't care. But yeah, it's like those scenes are both absolutely ridiculous, but they're iconic. But they're corny and iconic. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But he does it here. This is the first time he goes up on his tail and does a front kick on Kong. I thought that was awesome. By the way, just so you know, I really do like this final monster fight between them, even though it sounds like I'm shitting on it. There's so much goofy stuff in it, but I do like it. So anyway, sorry, I lost my spot. Just give me 1 second. Godzilla headbutts him away, does his front kick. First time we've seen that. The kick knocks Kong down the side of a mountain. Then Kong hit his head again. So this is like concussion number 2 or 3. He may have got another one when he was getting hit by the rocks earlier. But yeah, the front kick knocks Kong down the mountain. He rolls down the mountain and hits the back of his head on a boulder again. So this is at least concussion number 2. Let's see. Godzilla starts covering him with rocks again. Kong is kind of getting fucked up right now. Godzilla hits Kong directly in his head, doing some ground and pound with his tail. Hit Kong directly in the head 2 more times with his tail, back to back. That's at least 4 concussions inside of like 3 minutes. And then for some reason, okay, so Kong is down for the count. Godzilla's beating him with his tail, kicking rocks on him and stuff, like hitting him in the head again, giving him more concussions. Kong has lost at least like 80 IQ points right now. Godzilla starts shooting his breath at Kong like he wants to kill him, like he wants to set him on fire or cook him. But instead of actually shooting Kong, he shoots all around Kong. So he lights a circle of fire around Kong instead of shooting Kong. I just don't know why you would even include that. Because it just doesn't make sense. If he wanted to finish him off, why wouldn't he just finish him off? So I thought that was kind of weird, to be honest with you. Then I said, what the fuck is with this? I said, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden, a random lightning storm happens for no reason, and lightning starts striking Kong. So this just happens out of no reason. A lightning storm just happens during this scene while the fire is burning around Kong. Lightning bolt starts striking Kong. Kong wakes up. He's getting supercharged, even though they've never explained how that works. Kong grabs Godzilla's tail steel while getting struck by lightning. He throws Godzilla by his tail, then starts beating his ass like literal like MMA ground and pound. Goddamn, Kong is also somehow electrocuting Godzilla when he grabs him and touches him. Like when they're wrestling around and stuff, he's grabbing Godzilla on the face and neck and chest, and like it's like electrocuting Godzilla at the same time through Kong's hands, which is kind of crazy. This is like another iconic scene for me when King Kong grabs the tree, pulls the tree up, and shoves it in Godzilla's mouth because Godzilla's using his breath again. I thought that was awesome, by the way. And then Godzilla shoots the tree out of his mouth into Kong, which I said was sick. And then Kong grabs Godzilla and judo throws Godzilla, which was fucking awesome. And then they're wrestling through town. It's really violent. I think this is shot really well. I like the cinematography in these scenes, at least compared to the rest of this abortion. Sorry, that's what I said. At one point, I'm pretty sure they're using Godzilla and King Kong action figures for this fight, but it's brief and kind of funny. It's fine. Godzilla sweeps Kong with his tail. Godzilla hits King Kong in the head, but Godzilla knocks him down into some buildings. I'm not sure what happens here. This says Godzilla King Kong head, but Godzilla knocks him down into some buildings. I don't know what I was trying to say there. I guess maybe the text to speech messed up. I'm sorry. Kong starts kicking rocks at Godzilla. Godzilla uses his breath. They're fighting. Oh, this is when they start fighting around this big, I think it's called Atami Castle. So they start fighting at Atami Castle. They're destroying. This is another iconic scene. They're both on each side of the castle. They're clawing at each other, destroying the castle in the middle. Then they grab each other. One of them tackles the other, but I can't tell which one tackled. I can't tell who initiated. They end up falling off the cliffside down into the ocean. That triggers an earthquake and a tsunami. There's intense destruction sequences, which apparently is only in the American film. Like they took that from the Mysterions or something, some other film. They use stock footage for this. But there's some really good destruction sequences. And you can see that somebody is swimming away. Kong emerges. Godzilla has disappeared without a trace. They cut back to the newsroom. They say that they're oddly wishing Kong well as he returns home. You hear Kong roar as the movie fades to black. And then I wrote 5 out of 10 for me. There's actually like a little bit of a myth around the end of this film. Some people believe, and I always thought, that there were 2 versions of this film, one where Godzilla wins and one where Kong wins. But it turns out that that's not really true. There is a Japanese cut and an American cut, but the ending is pretty much the same, but I'll tell you the differences. So in the American cut that I just went over, they both fall into the sea. Only Kong emerges. You hear Kong's roar, and they say like Godzilla's disappeared without a trace. We don't know what happened to him. In the original Japanese version, they both fall into the water. Only Kong emerges. They're a little bit more vague about what's going on with Godzilla. Then you hear both of their roars at the end, and then the credits go. So that's the actual differences in the ending. I thought it was more dramatic than that. I thought like there was a cut in the Japanese version where Godzilla emerges instead of Kong out of the water. But apparently that's not true. If anybody knows, you can tell me. Anyway, that's the movie. Where are we at? How long has this been? 1 hour and 8 minutes. Wow. Man, I really am just making these for me at this point. Overall, I didn't like this movie. There's just no way to cut it. Like, I don't regret watching it. It was kind of fun. I'll be honest with you, by the end, I was ready for this shit to wrap up. Mostly because I already knew the ending. But it's just the cuts ruin any momentum that this movie is trying to build up. I've kind of looked at some of the differences between the Japanese and the American version. And, as you can expect, like they did with like Godzilla Raids Again. Or like they did with Godzilla King of the Monsters. That movie kind of butchers like the human story with Dr. Serizawa and Ogata and Kimiko. Or Emiko, the human characters and their story and all the depth around that really got butchered in the American version, but I was able to forgive that because the American version did some, I thought did some really brilliant things and did some good things. It's not as good as the Japanese version, but I feel like they handled most of it pretty well for what they were trying to do. Way better than whatever the fuck is happening in this movie. I at some point I'll have to watch the Japanese cut of this film because you can just tell that whatever story was going on with the human characters, with the boyfriend and the girlfriend and, you know, her family and the evacuation scenes, apparently a ton of that is cut. Even though so much footage is added to this movie for these American scenes, this movie is still like 7 or 8 minutes shorter than the Japanese cut. So that tells you how much they actually cut out of the Japanese film. And I really could feel it in this movie. I felt confused through a lot of this movie. The tone and, you know, the tone and the dialogue, there's so much whiplash where all of a sudden a character has a motivation out of nowhere for no reason that it's not really built on or explained, or their motivation changes and it's not explained. And you can just feel how much is missing. Like, it just constantly feels like there's context to characters and situations that you're not privy to. And that really hurt my ability to immerse myself in the film and enjoy it. But it is funny. It's funny. It's very funny. It's a very funny movie. Although I feel like it was trying to be funny, and the parts where it's trying to be funny were not funny. So it was very funny unintentionally. I really think that the final confrontation between Godzilla and Kong was pretty good. It was actually better than I remember it being. You know, there's scenes where, like, Godzilla is just kicking the shit out of King Kong and vice versa. There's scenes where King Kong is just beating Godzilla's ass. There's several moments where you kind of get the feeling that one monster could have finished off the other monster. Phrasing. But overall, I felt like it was a really good fight. There's several scenes, like Godzilla using the tail to sweep Kong, the judo throw, Kong putting the tree in Godzilla's mouth, Godzilla smashing Kong's face with his tail after he gives himself a concussion for no reason, Godzilla using the drop kick. Like, if you really think about it, I think that this final confrontation between Godzilla and Kong, I would say that, like, obviously I can't go back in time and watch this in 1962 or 3, but I was really happy with what I saw. I was like, at the very least, even if, like, the road to get here wasn't very satisfying, when we got to the showdown with Godzilla and Kong, they gave it to me. And I would love to see how much better that showdown might be in the Japanese cut. It was a fun movie. It was a funny movie. Absolutely butchered with the American version is absolutely butchered. The pacing is terrible. The editing is terrible. The translation feels off. And I feel like the comedy that they may have been going for in the Japanese film is conveyed very poorly in the American film, because it does not come off funny at all in the ways that it's trying to be. So that's pretty much it for Godzilla versus King Kong, man. And yeah, I did not know what to expect going into this movie, but I was really surprised by this film. I will say I was really surprised by it. First of all, I didn't think I was going to like the final fight as much as I did, and I didn't think that the rest of the movie would be as hard to watch as it was. So those are two things that I take from this. It looks like the next film for me to review is Mothra versus Godzilla, also known as Godzilla versus the Thing in some releases. The fourth film in the Showa era. Direct follow-up in release order, also directed by Shiro Honda. All right, so that's next. It looks like Mothra versus Godzilla. I'll be interested to see that. 1964, I think that was the year my dad was born. My dad was born the year that Mothra versus Godzilla released, and I was born in 1985. Can you guess which movie came out then? So anyway, that's pretty cool. All right, guys, that's it for my review of King Kong versus Godzilla. I'm going to try to review every Godzilla movie. I also do, I have a video game channel called Rex Sterling Live on YouTube. I'm probably going to change the name to just Rex Sterling, but it's where I play video games. Like right now I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 3, and I think I'm going to be playing Final Fantasy 13 soon on that channel, and I'm probably going to be uploading that as a video series now that I have an editor over there, so I'll probably still do some game streams. If you care about that stuff, you can check it out. Links in the description. If you sat through all of this, let me know in the comments that you sat all the way through this, and yeah, I appreciate you, and that's my review. All right, God, woo.